Now that we've taken a look at the value scale and we've created a simple piece of geometry using what we learned about value, we're going to start a new document and create a simple house using value and a bit of color this time. I've already saved this, so I'm going to save File New. Double save again. I'm going to use my felt tip pen. I'll double click on it to open the brush properties. I'll adjust my opacity and my size with the sliders so that I get a nice varied line when I draw. I'll Command Z to undo that. And I'm basically going to do like I did with my simple geometry earlier and just begin to draw a box in perspective. I'll use my additive and subtractive techniques to carve out an interesting piece of architecture here. Once I start with my basic box, I like to just add another level of elevation just to make the shapes more interesting. You also notice that I'm not doing any straight lines on the ends. I'm going to go a bit stylized and do something a little fun and whimsical. So I'm not going to worry too much about everything being perfectly straight. I'll indicate my roofs. Maybe add a little more to this level. And I'm just adding elevation so that I have room for my roofs to live. It also kind of helps me plan out where I'm going to put my doors and windows. And I'm just basically subdividing my house. And I'm doing it by eye. I'm not doing any exact measurements. Just making it look like it's going into perspective. And by doing this, I'm setting myself up again so I can use my subtractive methods to carve out my windows. When I need to show depth, I can easily just draw in this bevel and carve out my windows as need be. But I won't linger there for too long for right now. And I'll block in my door. Actually, that's a little too straight for my whimsical house, so I will draw it a little more whimsy. And you might notice that sometimes my finger hits the Option key and I color pick the background color, and if you see that happens to yourself, you can just go back into your color editor and pick the right color. You can also pick color from here in your lagoon, and it has the basic setup, and if I just want my black, I can just pick there. And I'll add some steps to the front. And to do this, I'm actually going to use my subtractive method to carve out a second step. And that'll be a little more clear once I erase out my rough square. I'll make sure that this meets the stairs at the ground level. And we'll worry about detail as we go along. But now we have our basic structure for our house. Solidify some of these lines. And this time I'm going to render our values in color. And instead of using the grayscale sliders here in the color editor, when we're ready we'll switch and use our HSB sliders. And HSB stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. And if you remember, brightness is also going to be synonymous with our value. And hue will be the actual color that we're using. And the saturation will be how bright or vivid it is. And maybe lastly, this house will need a roof. And I'll throw it right in the top center. And just a couple of windows towards the top. And here's the structure for our house. Let's click on our layers. Click on your background layer, click and hold, and then drag to the right to rename layer. And we'll just name that house for now. I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to click on the layer. And I will name it value.